Okay, we've done a little fine tuning to the Corvette since the last video we shot. It was running a little bit choppy on me, and I think I figured out what was going on with that. We'll get to that when we get to the other side. But what we've done to make it run better, it seems like it's running almost perfect right now. It's got a nice idle, warms up to operating temperature. It's idling at about 500 to 550 RPMs. You can tell that when it fluctuates between the 5 and 6 on the dash on the RPMs. What we've done is we repaired all of the vacuum hose leaks. All the components and switches in the vacuum system have been removed and cleaned, and that has a lot to do with the way the car performs. And one of the things that we pulled out and cleaned up is this diverter valve right here. It's that little valve right there. And we actually put a little zip tie on it on the other hose. What you do is you pull that valve out. There's 3 hoses going to it, and you spray brake clean in it and hit it with compressed air to dry it out. And there's always some kind of soot or carbon buildup in there. So we removed that and made sure it was clean and plugged it back in and make sure all the vacuum hoses are hooked up correctly. We did the vacuum hoses up front here. We replaced a PCV valve hose that goes to the intake, which looks like the intake there, which is this one right here. It was cracked and it wasn't sealing right, so we went ahead and replaced that. There's some vacuum hoses up here. We've already done those. We showed you what those were. One goes to the bottom of the throttle body and the other one goes to the EGR valve. And they both come off of that switch right there. Another thing we did was we pulled off, cleaned, and replaced these check valves right here. There's one on this side of the engine and there's one on the other side of the engine. Give you an idea of where they're located. The air rail, it's a check valve for the air rail for the emission system. Okay, we went ahead and pulled those off. So what you do is you spray a carburetor cleaner in this thing. You let it set for a while, you swish it around. Let it set for a while, then you pour it out, and then you actually get in there with a toothbrush or something, some kind of little brush, and you scrub around in there and you make sure that it's clean. Another thing you do is you make sure that all your vacuum hoses are not kinked and don't have holes in them. Okay, that little conjunction right there, you can tell that one needs a hose replacement on it, but it's actually not kinked. Even though it looks like it is a little bit, it's not kinked, and it's there's no holes in it. Another thing we made sure that this sensor here was cleaned and plugged back in correctly, because that sensor, that wire goes to your dash and it tells how much oil pressure is going on, or it's something to do with the oil pressure or the oil temperature. And another thing is you go down here and you pull out, it's a thing that looks like this. There's one under there. That one you pull out, you disconnect it, it's got 3 hoses going to it. You take it out and you do the same thing you did with the diverter valve. You put brake clean in it and hit it with compressed air, and you can see all the soot and carbon that comes out of it, so you know that has something to do with restricting the flow of vacuum. So you take care of that, and we'll go to the other side now. And on this side, what we ran into, there's the other check valve on this side. and there's actually another sensor with a wire going to it between the back two plugs there. What you do with that is you pull off the wire and you clean the male part of the sensor, because it usually gets some corrosion on there. Let me see if you can see which one I'm talking about. That's it right there, the thing with the wire on it. See it? That thing you pull off, make sure the connection is good, slide it back on. That's another one that goes to your digital dash. I think that one's the coolant temperature or something like that. But anyway, you got to make sure those are clean to make sure that your dash is going to work as well as it possibly can. Over here you can see we have two gray plug wires, and the reason we have those on here is because when I did the intake and all the runners and everything, there was a piece of insulation on this thing right here, and that thing goes directly to the exhaust, so that thing gets red hot. And what happened was this plug wire and this plug wire were leaned up against that, and they actually burned through the plug wires. So I think that was what was making me have a choppy idle and poor performance, and it just wasn't running smooth. So I went ahead and replaced those plug wires, and I also made sure that all my vacuum in this is all lined up. See how there's little zip ties on there? There was leaks going on through there. So you have to make sure all that is sealed up to get a good seal on the vacuum system, which is called the AIR system, Air Injection Reaction System. That's what that is. So seems to be running very nice. I do seem to have a fuel smell that I can't quite locate right now, but I'm in the process of that. I'm going to go ahead and put Teflon on my fuel inlet and fuel return that goes to the fuel rail, and as well as this one here that goes, that's got the pressure release valve there, because I did put a fuel filter on it. If you remember, I put a fuel filter on it earlier. So these are the things we've done to it, and it seems to be running really, really nice right now. It's looking good. It's running nice. Everything's working on it. Got new wiper blades on here. This is kind of funky. The wiper blades are Duralast from AutoZone, and the hole where the pin from the wiper arm goes is too big. So I had to put some spacers in between this hole right here and the back on the other one, and that's what seems to make them work now. I've had them working in the rain a couple times now, and they seem to stay on, except for one day one fell off on me, and it was before I took off, so I was able to put it back on and make sure I tried to make it stay on better. But this car is running absolutely beautiful now. It's amazing. It's blowing me away. I do have a low coolant light that seems to come on occasionally, and I kind of believe it's this sensor right here, but I already pulled it out and cleaned it off with emery cloth and stuck it back in there, and I still get a low coolant light. So it's really not bothering me, because I know there's enough coolant in the cooling system to keep everything nice and cool. It's running beautiful. Runs nice.